this idea at an MIT fundraiser, like an MIT event or contest, and Victor and Suen were judges and introduced us to the Rotary Club of Bedford, and we put together a global grant. Now it's been, I think, maybe 4 years since we pitched to the Rotary Club, your club, and maybe 2 years since the grant was approved. It took us a little bit of time to get all the paperwork together. So this is a progress report on how far we've come so far. And we've made progress despite COVID, which I'm excited to share, and some of the plans for the future and what we're trying to continue to do. Now, I'm not an MIT student anymore. I just graduated last August. I work full time, but I put in about 5 to 12 hours a week on this, my evenings and weekends. And there are a number of other volunteers that help out. And we have staff in Kenya that initially were paid by the from the grant, and now I've tried to start seeking out other funding sources to keep it going. So that's, do you want me to jump in, Nancy? Should I go through? I have about 10 slides. I don't think it'll take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, if you want to just go through, give us a little update. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is probably my third presentation of the group. I've tried to make it mostly new material, but I'll do a really quick recap. And I guess the very bottom is probably, can you guys see the very bottom of my screen, or is it just showing the actual, like I have video at the bottom of my screen showing a bunch of heads, but does it just show the slides?
Just the slides.
Perfect, okay. So just a quick recap, we have a very high dropout rate in Kenya of secondary school students who start in grade 9 but don't make it all the way to the national exams. And largely it's teen motherhood. A lot of kids eventually run out of funds, their parents pass away, they have to start working part-time to support their families and their siblings. And a lot of students just fall behind and give up. They feel like the material's too hard, it's moving too fast, and there isn't really a way of doing remedial education. It's sort of one size fits all. And there's no government solution for dropouts, which are the vast majority of the school-age population. So we came up with what we think was a solution. We're moving in a slightly different direction during COVID, but we wanted to digitize the national curriculum into small bite-sized videos, which we could supplement with projects and activities that could be described in a PDF and deliver them with quizzes and review questions in an offline environment. So we wouldn't need regular internet access. We'd use low-cost tablets, a $100 computer server that would host all of the content and broadcast it within like a single room, a library, part of a school. And we would do a lot of internal content production to make sure that everything was lined up really tightly with the national exams. We tried using some stuff that's more for the American audience. So there's obviously a lot of free learning content on the internet. And what we found is that the English accents were hard to understand, and the level of English used for English native speakers is just a bit too advanced for a lot of the poor rural students. So middle class and upper middle class kids would get those videos fine, but the kids who were just learning English in school only and never spoke it at home and didn't have a TV at home, they struggled with the American content. So we had to create a lot on our own that used basic English and had an accent that they understood, and using examples that would make sense. The other component of the solution was to have a flexible, individually paced program, so everyone could learn at their own level. So if you dropped out for 3 months because you got sick, you could come back and pick up where you left off. The other piece of what we started designing were practicals, like little labs for the applied subjects, like home science or home ec, where you learn sewing and baking, chemistry, biology, where there were activities students could do even if they didn't have a full lab or a full set of equipment. They could still gain some of the practical skills with resources that are available in their communities and at home for free, like tin cans, for example. So those are the solution components, and we did 5 implementations at different sites, not all at the same time. And on this list, unfortunately, only 2 were official collaborating organizations on the global grant. And we certainly, I think we want to move forward with some of them as official partners before the global grant ends, to have them officially being able to participate in the project. So there was an adult education center we worked with. We only wound that down because it was sort of a a pre-program pilot in the early stage. We actually think that they would be a great partner to work with in the future. And we just pivoted use of the tablets we had bought at that time to the 2 secondary schools that had signed on. So we might want to work with them again. We worked with St. Teresa Secondary School. There was about 40 kids in the end that were in that program, but we found that they were not implementing it unless we were there. And so there was a bit of an incentive problem for the teacher, because the teachers who volunteered to do it weren't getting paid to do it. And the school said, yes, we'll contribute staff, but then it was kind of left to the school and the MOU to sort of motivate the staff. And they found that after about a year, that just wasn't happening. So I mean, we're open to working with them again. Maybe we come back with more material and resources and a different structure. They'd take more interest, or the school would prioritize it. But we ended up winding that program down just at the end of last year. We ran the program also at another secondary school called Lyons High School, and that program was popular. We had, I think, about 35 students using the program every single week, and multiple teachers went through the training, and we've actually hired one of the teachers from that school to help us with content production during COVID. And that school partnership only ended because of COVID. So we plan on re-engaging with them after COVID and expanding hopefully up to 100 students. We also opened a full-time, when I say full-time, I mean the students were there for 6 to 7 hours a day, instead of a couple hours here and there, a program for actual dropouts. That was the original goal, was not to be an enrichment program within schools, but to actually take dropouts and get them through the secondary school curriculum. We launched that with support of a county government that gave us access to a resource center. Like, it's basically an adult education center or library. So they sort of co-sponsored and subsidized our access to the space. And we had 20 students officially enrolled, but mostly 15 were active and came regularly. And that program was going well, but ended because of COVID. So the government mandated the closure of all educational institutions until further notice. And currently they're scheduled to reopen in January. So we would like to maybe get an MOU with that group and resume, because those students could write the national exams. We also did a math program with Simbui Primary School. So this was just math curriculum, and it was, you know, more tailored for exam prep for kids trying to get into secondary schools. As you can see, based on just the lighting and the nature of the desks and how crowded it is in that picture, the primary schools have way fewer resources, and the facilities are not as good as the secondary schools. So this is just a picture of our core field team that we've had since the past 3 years that have done content production, but also making visits to the partner sites and trying to supervise implementation. And all of them are still with us, and they've done really good work. So I want to give you an update on our progress with content production, because that's probably been where we've had more initial success. It was a bit hard to run a really compelling pilot with the schools when we only had 2 subjects finished, but we're getting close to having, but probably by the end of this year, 5 or 6 full subjects finished, including sciences. So we've got all of agriculture done. There's a few final production bits to go, but all of agriculture, history and government, home science, this is grades 9 to 12, half of business studies. English has gone really fast because we've got all of the examinable books that are on the national exams. All the lessons are done and recorded. And we just hired a Kiswahili teacher this summer, and we're about 20% done with Kiswahili, and I hope we may not be completely finished by the end of the year, because I don't know how hard the grades 11 and 12 are, but hope to be really close to done by the end of the year or early 2021. So I think where we're going with this is we can offer a very different solution out of the schools that we try to partner with. Instead of saying, well, we've got this one subject or these 3 subjects that we can support that are electives, we can say, we've got the whole curriculum. If you have a dropout, a former student who's not enrolled anymore, and they're just kind of in the middle of a year, it's hard to reintegrate them, we can actually cover everything. We can offer a full one-room schoolhouse solution. That was our goal from the onset. We didn't anticipate that we would need to create so much material internally because we didn't realize the language barrier would be so big. And the language barrier is, this is all English content except Kiswahili, but the level of English is basic. The pronunciation is overdone. It would sound awkward to an American, but it's exactly what our students need. So we launched a YouTube channel because of COVID to try to, well, not necessarily because of COVID, but it made us ask, well, like, we have all of this material we've produced and we're not delivering it. How can we get it out there? How can we have an impact despite COVID? And so we started making public what was previously our private channel just for feedback. And there's still a lot of content we have yet to put up there and finalize. I think we want to add like little promotional endings to ask people to subscribe. So we're in the process of like adding little 5 to 10 second promo things to help promote the channel. But we've got 20, as of today, this is a screenshot from today, our YouTube analytics, we've had just over 22,000 views. And 92% of those views are from within Kenya. So it's targeted at the actual audience that we want to reach. Now, I still don't think that's a lot of views. I mean, it's a lot for Kenya because a lot of people don't have internet access. So this is mostly us serving the middle class here. But we have gotten more channel views than the government's official YouTube channel for high school education called EduTV. And they have lessons going back all the way to primary. And we've only covered a few subjects here. So we think we are the #1 K-12 education YouTube channel in Kenya. I might be wrong about that, but I think so far we are, and we haven't even tried to promote this yet. It was kind of just an experiment. So I'm thinking we can get to 100,000 by the end of the year when we finish the rest of our content. And so that's something we're going to prioritize as a way of creating some impact while we try to figure out our ground game. And we're getting pretty good feedback from people. Like, we're getting a lot of likes. And so I think people appreciate what we've put together. So what are we trying to do in the next year and a half? So I think the focus moving forward, there's some opportunities with the government of Kenya now that we have some really serious, good quality content. So we want to get our content distributed through EduTV. So we want to give the government a license to use anything we've produced. And EduTV, it is their YouTube channel, and that's not so successful, but they also have a television station and they schedule lessons for different subjects. And they can't cover everything and they don't have material for everything. So we're in communication with the government agency that's in charge of EduTV to see if they're interested in our material. We are trying to also get that government institute to approve and review our material so that we can distribute it through something the government built called the Kenya Education Cloud. And it was built with the intention of being a central repository for government approved, free, or I don't know if it has to be free. Everything I've seen on there is free so far. Resources that parents can download or get for their kids to learn at home. So if someone doesn't have enough internet bandwidth to watch and stream all our videos, they could order a DVD at cost and have that mailed to them. It's like $3 for the DVD would be way less than like a $40 a month internet subscription. So we're pursuing this option too. We are also trying to create a partnership with Kenya's top network of high schools called Nova Pioneer. Now, these are sort of elite schools. They're not serving the high school dropouts and the low-income kids, but we want to partner with them because they may be in a position to fund a randomized controlled trial that we could use to prove that our content's good. So we're trying to get them to work with us in January 2021. They're mostly interested in math and science content, which we are trying to create now. We don't have it yet. We did the elective subjects first, thinking we could rely on the Khan Academy and other American content for math and science. So we're starting to do math and science now, hoping we can deliver a tutoring solution for Nova Pioneer in January when school reopens, and for them to fund the research of to fund the cost of that and to do a randomized controlled trial to see if our content is better than whatever else the students would naturally use or gravitate to. So I think these two things are really promising and could be a catalyst for having a really big impact and going and just hitting scale and having a big stamp of legitimacy on the work we're doing and getting it adopted by others. So in the short term for the fall, the goal is to complete exam preparation videos for math and science subjects. So we're not going to make the whole curriculum for math and science from scratch. We're going to do really targeted videos around how the Kenyan exams are structured, doing question review, explaining how they get graded, going through exam taking techniques. It's basically doing exam review questions. And then if time permits, if we get through all of that, we'll probably go back and do an in-depth dive on topics that are more niche to the Kenyan curriculum that aren't easily covered by the US material that we have. So we're still going to rely on some American or English, British material. Yeah, so we're trying to get the exam stuff for STEM, science, technology, and math ready this year. We also want to complete Kiswahili and English, and I think that's possible. And then we could have all the mandatory subjects covered. We want to get that MOU to run the trials with Nova Pioneer. And we need to renew school partnership agreements to resume the in-person Second Chance program when the government allows us to do so. And so we need to make some decisions about who those partners should be, because they should be party to the global grant, so we can leave the technology and tablets with them, like owned by those partner schools, as long as we verify they're actually going to run the program as intended. So that's sort of the agenda for the fall. I want to introduce you really quickly to the caliber of the math and science teachers we've recruited so far. And by so far, I mean last week. They've joined us just last week, and I did training with them last week. And we want to hire 3 more to get us over the finish line. So we got probably some of the best people in Western Kenya. So our math teacher, Raphael, is the Kenyan coach for Kenya's Math Olympiad team. He's the head of the math department at the top national school in Western Kenya. And he's been a national math examiner for about 17 years. Jared and Evans, who do chemistry and biology, are also, so they're not Math Olympiad level, but they are national examiners. So they're certified to set and to grade national exams, which is something that only high caliber teachers who are at the level of university lecturers are typically allowed to do. And I don't know if did I make a note, the cost, we can hire them for $15 an hour for Jared and Evans, or not an hour, I mean a day, a full day. And Raphael has agreed to 20. So these are really exceptional people, and we're able to get them to produce material for like a quarter of the US minimum wage, and they're really great. So, oops, I didn't mean to, did I end the stop share? I think I just did something with my screen.
No, you're still good.
Okay. Sorry, I just messed up something on my screen. There we go. So funding. So I'm here to make a little bit of a funding pitch, I confess. So let me tell you where we're at. So we definitely spent more than the global grant allowed. And when we ran out of funds, I mean, there's still reimbursements that Victor is processing and reviewing, and I've sent him, various expense documentation, but we definitely went over. So my charity in Canada that I set up as a college student is a partner in the global grant. So we had some reserve funds from our volunteer program that were like not earmarked for anything. And since we had no volunteer program this year, I got the board to just donate it to the Second Chance program to keep it afloat and to keep the team together while I try to hustle. I've also granted money out of my own pocket and lent money just to keep everything working and not have it all melt down. And that bridge of time, so I don't know exactly when we officially ran out of money, but like that little bridge bought us just enough time to get a big matching pledge from a family foundation. So the Essler family from Sutton, Massachusetts, are a business family that have a national window company. And we met them through one of, a university-based like pitch event for philanthropy. And they've committed $25,000 as a matching pledge to this project. So that's a dollar for dollar match. And they're open to doing another $25,000 in 12 months from now if we're successful with the first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just try to get the first. But anyway, so I think for what I described for getting the math and science curriculum done and finishing Kiswahili in English, we only need 15,000. And my parents and I have decided we will chip in and match donations so we can then use that to then double match with the Esslers. So in case anyone here is still interested in this project and wants to help us, I'm committing right now that for anything received in 2020, my parents and I will contribute a 100% match any donations your club can raise, and the Esslers will match that. So that's $100 gets turned into 400, and it's really less than 100 if you do the itemized deductions. And that's like 20 full-time days of an elite science and math teacher in Kenya. That can produce a lot of material to help us really deliver on the original vision of the project and have a full solution. We can issue tax receipts through Open Learning Exchange, which is one of the official collaborating organizations on the Rotary Grant from the original proposal. And I didn't provide in this slide deck info on how to follow up, so I guess I'll follow up with Nancy on further information on that if anyone's interested. We would really appreciate your support in keeping this going. So that's my email. That's not my work email, it's my volunteer email. This is by the way, I only got this set up like a couple weeks ago, even though I've been doing this volunteer work with PFID, our charity. So I was happy to finally be able to use it in a slide deck. And I'll end here for questions, and I hope I didn't go over time.